Really nice to see everybody. People coming from absolutely everywhere. Again, oh, it's busy. Hey there. I'm very busy admitting lots of people, so it looks like this is going to be a good. Hola, Federico. Hi. So this is going to be a busy session. So I will first be admitting everybody before we start. Oh, I see already a raised hand. Hey, Matt, do you have a question already?
Yes, yeah.
Well, just regarding, in the previous course or the last year, there was sort of a list of the 3D printers that's are best suited for like 3D printing shoes, and I just wonder what sort of got any updates on that or anything that's coming soon in the market, and also the pellet 3D printers. I tried to look them up, but I couldn't find. It seemed that there's not much information available about
There's
them.
not many. No, there's not
Yeah.
many.
So if you have
So
something that's you would recommend to explore, that's
yeah,
not very expensive, that would be really helpful. Thank
yeah.
you.
Okay, yeah, perfect. So I don't know if everybody who was coming in heard Imad's question. This was about if there's an update about printers for footwear, including pallet printers that are affordable. I still think that after last year and continuing this year, the biggest change is probably the Bamboo. It also stood out to me yesterday when I saw a lot of people's slicing examples, and they shared the screen that it was pretty much all Bamboo Studio that I was seeing. So I understand that. There is a Pro one that was just published this week. I have to look into it a little bit better because it has a double extrusion system. But again, for us doing flexible, since the material station of the Bamboo is not suitable for flexible, I don't know if this is the best one. We are going to test a machine that could be potentially interesting for the shoe industry. And it's coming out is one from Lugo Labs. Let me see if I can open that for you guys in the meantime. But this one's not on the market yet, so that might be more like a carrot that I'm holding in front of you, not so much an actual option. There, let me let also in. Still putting people in while I'm already answering questions. So hello everybody. So for those of you coming in, Imad already straight jumped in, not losing any time, came in with his question about printers for footwear in 2025. So I commented a little bit on the Bamboo. I now wanted to share my screen quickly to show you the Lugo Labs that we are going to touch. A Lugo Labs H1. That's this printer, and this is a printer with 6 nozzles. Let me see if I can show already, because they changed the website a little bit, what the printer looks like. Sorry for scrolling a bit fast. I'm just trying to see if I can get a better update. No, this is another one. So I might not be able to show you that actual printer right now because they have a dual extrusion, but the one that I'm looking at, the Lugo H1 that we are going to be testing is a 6 nozzle printer. Oh, there's Eric. That's one of my former interns that we were just talking about today. So it's good. Let me stop sharing a second. Hey, Eric. So just saying hi. But so I was just finishing the question on printers. So Bamboo, Lugo Labs, there are quite a few other printers. I think I would always advise anybody to go to, if you're in Europe at least, to go to Formnext. There's also other 3D printing shows in the US where you can see from a whole bunch of brands different printers. Also, look online because for a lot of printers you don't need something super expensive, as long as especially if you're starting. We started out on the Artillery Sidewinder number 2. That one is no longer in the market, but you now have from Elegoo, you have similar models, really simple. single extrusion cheap machines. I would not, if you're just starting out, I would not go for something really expensive anyway. The pellets extrusion really is a different side of the market, because you see that the people that offer, yeah, so Daniel's asking, what about Prusa? Also really good machines. I didn't use Prusa for a long time because beds were too small for me. Prusa XL is definitely a good option. Again, if you're a beginner, I do not advise Prusa XL. Because it has 5 nozzles. You really have to understand slicing. You really have to understand what you're doing. Otherwise, you're simply not using the benefits of the machine. So if you are new, start single extrusion. If you're not new, then indeed, by all means, go for the machines that have multiple materials. Of course, also depends on your budget and what you find expensive, because of course, when we're looking at Prusa XL, that's a 4,500 euro machine. So that's already more for the people that are printing professionally. I don't think that's super suited for people that are maybe still studying or just starting out. So that's also the case for a lot of the pellet machines. So we have a WASP pellet machine here and a Direct 3D. Direct 3D is definitely one that I would advise. But again, you're looking at very different prices. So there we are looking at about 7,000, 8,000 and up. So this is not, you have, which is an option for you to try, separate pellet extruders that you can attach to the cheaper printing machines. So if you're a bit of a tweaker, we tested one from Australia that was presented to us when we were still in Barcelona. So this is also definitely something you can look into. There are more pellet extrusion machines. I will look up then for the class tomorrow, some brands and some pages, which I don't have it in front of me now. What is sometimes the issue is that for us with footwear, it's sometimes too small, bed too small. So that's an issue. So and if you then get to the larger pellet extruders, then we are indeed talking about machines that are industrial grade, which is great for if you want to produce. I mean, then it's not necessarily too much, but it's just a different price range from the others. So for the moment, I would say that the big difference is a little bit more in the materials rather than just in the printer. I mean, a lot of printers can do well. Indeed, if you are starting out and you want to start on the simple Bambu. That's also maybe a good tip, that since Bambu is now introducing H2D, the H2D Pro, if you are on a small budget and you simply want to get the X1, which is now an old model for them, that's suddenly less than half of the price. So those you can get now for less than 1,000 euros. So that's actually a really good deal. So that's where I would look. But it's also still fine to simply go on Geek Buying, Alibaba, whatever, and look at really cheap single extrusion. As long as it's direct drive, then you're probably pretty good with a simple extrusion Chinese machine. But since we jumped straight into questions, in the meantime, everybody came in. Today is actually our class on design. So what I'm going to do is to take you through general concepts of why and how you would design for footwear. And then I would like to show some examples. So I always am on the lookout for more people coming in. I'm always on the lookout for yeah, Mitch, I have tried resin. I will answer your question about that actually at the beginning of the design class, because I have resin shoes here, powder shoes. I have all methods. So in this class, I'm also going to address a few other methods for those of you still figuring it out. But today is focused on design, understanding how to design, not so much from a software perspective, but from a design thinking perspective. What do we print, why, and how? And I'm going to show some examples. I'm always on the lookout for things that I can show that are not already known by everybody. And right before our move, Federico, who is also here, Federico, is he came into our lab. I was busy packing boxes and stuff for the move, and I was like, huh, I don't have a meeting, I don't know. And then I saw his shoes, and I was like, okay, I'm going to put my box down. I'm going to sit down and I'm going to speak to this guy. So I invited him to show his work, which I really, really like later. And also John, I see that John Gibson is also here, has taken many of our courses. And just last night before I went to sleep, John was posting something on Insta that he will show you himself later, which I thought was brilliant. So I texted him right away and said, John, come into the class. But he was already coming into the class, so that's great. So, but we will do that later. First, I wanted to start from a general perspective on design, because I know in this class we have a mixture of people that are novice and people that are more experienced. So the first thing that I actually always start off, whether I have courses here or whether I do courses online, is to show a shoe that I have here, which I bought especially for this purpose, which is this one. So this is not a printed shoe, by the way, but I bought it as an example because a lot of times I have people coming in that are either from a footwear background or want to design regular shoes that are normally not printed. So they will come in, hey, can you print me a Nike Air Force, whatever, whatever. Technically, the answer is yes, but you have to realize that it will look like a shell, like this. This shoe is molded simply because I don't have a printed version. I never made one of a regular shoe, but I find this, I mean, I think this is a nice, fun gadget, but of course it doesn't, this is a Converse All-Star. This doesn't have any of the charm of the actual original shoe, because what you have to realize, if you print a full shoe, that you are making a shell, and that has pros and that has cons. So there are certain things that are actually things that you cannot do in normal shoes that are great for printing, and some other things where I'm like, yeah, I can do in printing. Or if you want to make a prototype, no problem. For a regular shoe, we also still have a lot of prototyping coming on, happening. But technically, you would want to design for printing. So also what I came to realize, I've been printing since 2001. My first printing was in Timberland, where I was working as a consultant. And by accident, they took me to the innovation lab and they said, Nico, we want you to have a look at our printer, 3D printer. At that time, especially, I've never heard of what that would be. It was a powder printer, and they were making really simple cookies. They called it like rigid models, just to see a style. It was also with a little inkjet head in it, so they could print it in color. But ever since that time, it really, for me, was so fascinating that you could make a product in 3D. But it also showed me that indeed you need to think differently. Originally, because this is how that started, of course, before you were able to do anything on a printer, you needed to be able to do 3D modeling. So from that time, I always thought, oh, people first need to learn modeling and then they can go printing. And now, since the past few years, I've completely changed my mind. People first need to learn printing. If you cannot model yet, then take my advice, please. Learn printing first, then modeling, if your goal is to print your shoes. Because what happens a lot, what is basically happening in all our courses, 99% of the time, if people have never printed, but they do know how to model, and they come to our courses, they will come with a nearly unprintable model, where they're like, look at my fancy design. And then, and I'm like, can we not print it? We literally, Nela and I, Nela's also here, we had a course a few weeks ago, right before we moved, where we also had people that were extremely frustrated in the first week, that the beautiful models that they had made did not come out of the printer at all like how they had envisioned. And that's a really important thing to take into account. It is not true, which what a lot of people assume, that with a printer you can make anything. That with an FDM printer, for sure not. With filament or pellets and with an extrusion, you have limitations. That's not bad. You can use a lot of these limitations in your advantage, but you have to realize that. So it also depends on what is it that you're trying to achieve. So whenever we are teaching, and that's also today, I'm always thinking of people that want to make wearable printed shoes, also maybe to make an income, to sell your own collection, to sell your own shoes. So that's always the perspective that I'm looking at. If you simply want to make a prototype of a shoe that will be made in a traditional way, or you want to make more a single piece because it's an artwork for you, by all means, you know, if it takes you a week to print, I don't care. I saw a girl once that was doing the mischief boots, the enormous red boots that they had made 120-hour print, was still cheaper for her than to buy the original. So I think, you know, I don't mind, but it's more from the perspective of If you want to make a living, because there's more and more people that come to us who are like, I simply want to produce my own shoes, then by all means, you have to start designing for printing. Otherwise, you are not able to start producing the footwear for a reasonable price, right? We see tomorrow when we are going in the slicing class, I will show you how you can have your slicer calculate the price of your shoe. Because it's really simple. If you know the price of your material, you can put those costs in, and if it slices, it then calculates how much the material cost is. But that's just the material cost, but it already gives you an indication. A lot of times I have had people with really elaborate models, big shoes, that they thought they were going to sell for like €100 or $100, where I was like, your material costs are already more. Yesterday we talked about materials. People ask me a lot of times how many shoes from one roll of material, and that depends on your design. If you make a really large shoe, you will still be able to get a full one probably from one roll, but not a pair. We always prefer to have at least one pair, one roll, and also to calculate for that. There's nothing more frustrating than finding out after you have been slicing that, say that there is 750 grams on your roll, which is, for instance, what Filaflex has on average, and your shoe is 800. Yeah, or by all means redesign, because it makes no sense to have a full roll of filament in your one shoe, then having to change for the final minutes to another roll, which then is not also not enough for your next shoe. It's really important that you keep those things in mind. And also what we will talk about today, shape wise, be really smart. As a good designer, there's a lot of solutions that you can think about for the printing, right? You can use the things that a printer cannot do well, you can also use them in your advantage as a design element. So what I want to do is to start a little bit from the beginning, because I already heard from Daniel and from others also questions about, have you tried other methods of printing? Yes, all of them. So for those of you who are new, you might not know, what we do here is printing with filaments and pellets, like I explained yesterday. So extrusion, so you have a plastic that melts, it comes out of a nozzle, and layer by layer we build up on a build plate. You can also have a printer that works with a liquid, a resin, and that is not a thermoplastic, because this is not cured with a temperature. This is done with light. So this could either be UV light, it could be LED light. There's different types of printers that have different solutions. It's usually called SLA, stereolithography. You also have a bunch of other names there, depending on what type of light is being used. DLP is with LED lights, for instance, also used a lot. And I have a couple of shoes here that you might also recognize from online. This is from a Lifeform Bio resin shoe. This is from Ika and Kostika, a resin shoe. So what is the advantage of resin, especially the one that I'm holding now? This shoe, there's absolutely no way that I am able to make this on an FDM printer. Way too many openings, way too much lace-like textures. This doesn't come out nice out of extrusion, because we will have support material all through these holes. Also, what you will see, this is pretty smooth, because it's a liquid that basically cures. So there's no lines. You don't see printing lines like we see on FDM. On the flip side, you have to realize that in resin, you have to make stuff open. So if you see here, right, the lattice that is in there, these openings, if you are not doing that, once you start to know this type of printing, you will also see. So if I take the other one again, I don't know if you can see, but this is actually also, can you see it here? This is also open when you look in the sole thread. Also open, because you have to, otherwise the resin does not come out. This leaks also still resin from it when they come out. And otherwise they also become really stiff, clunky, and heavy. So it's not easy to make. Would you mind giving me the other black one? That's in there. Probably those of you who are following a lot of printed share. who are following me online are ano na sita. My landlord wanted to come and visit. She's there in the window doing course. This is another one also from a life from bio. In person. Here you can see this is near solid, but again, in the bottom, you will have the lattices. But this is also pretty thin. I also remember, I think it was even you, John. You had the Puma ones, I think, right? Resin, where you had this great video and you hear squeak, squawk, squeak, squawk, in the shoes. I didn't know.
They're some of the loudest shoes I've ever heard. And it's like the material itself. It's not like the contact on the surface. It's like the support structure inside of it as it rubs against each other makes that squeaky noise.
Exactly. It's those lattices on the inside. So there's pros and cons. Also, for people that I actually recently had somebody here who was representing a big company that actually makes these exact shoes as a sales representative who does not know that this material is toxic. So I have good hopes that in the future the resins will get more and more plant-based, because resin is a material that also exists in nature. However, in nature, it's not existing like this in a flexible state that remains flexible. So when it comes to resins that are rigid, you have a lot of more options already when it comes to bio-based material. But for this, I mean, that's my only thing. I love Ping. This is the designer of these shoes. I just don't always appreciate that he calls it a life form bio, because it's inspired by biomimicry, but people might think that this is biological material, and it's absolutely 1000% not. This material you cannot recycle at all, and if you have to burn it, you will have toxic fumes. And this is one of the main reasons why we in-house do not use this method of printing, because it's just against our principles of sustainability. But I'm not evangelical in the sense that I forbid other people to go do this. If this is something you want to pursue, and there's more and more resin printers on the market, there's the Formlabs, there's many other ones, give it a try. This does require high skill of modeling. If you have to do it in-house, because you will have to make lattices yourself. If you work with a print farm that does this, then they usually make the lattices for you, because they have specific lattices that they want inside for optimal printing. So that's then usually a collaboration, but just for you to know. So the smoothness and the openness that we have here, we cannot get FDM. But that doesn't mean that we cannot do a lot of other things. We also have, let me see, I'll show you that. Hold on a second. I just need to take a little walk to get something. I don't have, this is a powder one. I don't have all that many shoes that are made in powder. This is a rigid one, by the way, you can hear. But very beautiful one, high heel, the eternity sign. If you make this custom to somebody's foot, for sure, you can still wear this relatively comfortably. What this shoe does show, the advantage of powder, where you have a layer of powder and then it's lasered together or it's glued together. The advantage of this is that you could indeed, this is allowing for most different shapes, because you don't have any support material. You have support material for resin, for sure. You have support similar almost to FDM. But here, if I print this one, I don't have any support in these holes, simply because the remaining powder stays in the box. You might have seen these powder printers, they go open and they start like an archaeologist digging out the models. Disadvantage I find of this, it's expensive to do. It's the most expensive method. It's more expensive than resin and FDM. You will probably not have those machines at home. Here we are talking about machines $200,000, $300,000 and upwards. So, and that's just the machine. Then we're not talking about depowdering, getting all the powder off, getting everything finished. So that's another thing. One thing that I personally don't appreciate so much about this is that it's microplastics to begin with. because this is a really fine plastic powder. It's also wet if you work in a, it's all right. If you work in a factory that makes this, you have to wear masks, you have to wear, this is not something you want to breathe in on a daily basis. So it's another thing. For anybody who wants to, Mitchell's asking, are all these cool designs you're showing doable in Rhino? Yes, they are. So if you want to learn, indeed, so that's a good question. I should promote more what I'm teaching. If you want to learn stuff like this, we do offer that. So if you want to go in this direction and you want to make lattices and you want to do stuff like this, do Rhino, then do Grasshopper, then do custom lattice design in Grasshopper. So those are 3 courses that are, for instance, in the bundle that we are offering. That's only 250 now, so that's that's all relevant. I mean, even though it's started in Rhino 7, I mean, Grasshopper is not being updated. So Rhino goes to 8. Now in September we start the new course, but Grasshopper does not have an update. It stays the same. So there will be one coming, but we don't know when. So that's what I would advise if you want to go this direction. For sure, you could do that. Now, an FDM shoe works, as we looked at yesterday, with layers. And one of the first things that people need to learn when they come here and they want to do printed footwear from a design perspective is please, please, please let go of a love for smoothness. I get I get people in who want this. They want this. If you want this, forget it. I mean, I could, even if you printed a PLA, maybe sand it, dip it, I mean, even then, you might still not get it. So, and the more you are trying to make smooth, the more you are getting frustrated. And also, it is not the most comfortable. So actually the shoe, that's the shoe that we printed yesterday. So we, as you might remember from the first class, we're testing this material, right? Sting 3D. And this is our issue we have, is that this material is a 98, comes out as a 75, is very soft. So now we printed this one with a much softer infill. Oh, I think it's the other one that we have there. With a much softer infill because this was too rigid. But now we have it super soft on the bottom, but this on the top, since it's smooth with walls, is then still too stiff. So this is also from a designer that really insisted, I want smooth. Yeah, then you have smooth, but please remember that this type of thing with walls, even though pretty, might not be the most comfortable, and especially not for the top of your shoes. This could cut. So you have to always think a little bit about how do you design for comfort. So why do we see, for instance, do we have it here? Could you give me Zellerfeld? Why do we see, for instance, in brands like Zellerfeld? Yeah, give me that one, actually. These two is fine. So I have 2 ones here. This is the one from Tom. This is the new textile texture that they're making, almost textile-like. But why do we see so much of these textures in printing? Not just because we can, it's also way more forgiving. So we had one student in one of our previous classes who was also, no, I want smooth, shiny wall, who then was printing and continually had issues, because you also have to realize that even on a bamboo, printing is not perfect. You will always have some minor flaws. Get them on the table. And especially in smooth, you will see it immediately. So in texture, you don't. Very forgiving. So after his 4th try, hitting his head against the wall with, I want it small, tried it over what we call open wall, so not make it smooth. And the shoe looked fantastic, and it looked perfect, because in those little textures, if I'm looking at stuff like this, these textured optics, even in types of this we gave a texture. It's much more forgiving. It's my advice for anybody who starts with FDM, by all means, in any way, work with texture. We can see tomorrow in the slides how to create texture. If you are a modeler and you can do whether it's in Rhino or in Grasshopper, there's many different ways you can add texture, also in Blender, work with textures. And I also have the proof here. I always love this shoe. People always like, yeah, but consumers don't want the lines. Consumers don't want the lines. I'll answer your question in a second, Echo, for TPU, for the coating. This is a molded shoe from Adidas, and I don't know if you can see here the lines. This is a copy, molded copy of an Adidas, of a 3D printed shoe by Adidas. You even do the little fingerprint things in here. And you can see, for those in the know, this is a mold. Here you see the mold partition line. I even had, when this shoe came out, journalists saying, oh, finally, Adidas is going into FDM printing. No, they're not. They just molded a shoe that looks like an FDM print, and it was sold out within the day. Because, of course, marketing tactics and all of that. But it also shows that the lines are not an issue for the consumer. So get it out of your head. Use the lines as a design feature if you can. So like we said yesterday, the larger I make my nozzle, the faster I can print. So use the lines. That's why I'm always a big fan, people know that, of the work of Fused. This is one of his other shoes, Fused footwear. Because the goal that Philip has, he's the owner of Fused, is to print all his shoes under 10 hours. That's his critical limit, because he's indeed one of the designers that successfully makes a living printing his own shoes and selling those. But if you want to do that successfully, you have to be able to print fast. So the way he designs, I can show you in this shoe and many others, is very smart. First of all, a lot of times when we print shoes, I will show you both options later. The first question we might have is, are we printing like this, horizontal, or are we printing like this, vertical? Both options can be correct. The reason why we print like this a lot of times is because of support material. Of course, if you have a closed shoe, a fully closed shoe like this, if I print like this whole bit is an overhang. So inside you will have, if you don't have this in the right angle, you will have full-on supports. And this last makes a dip, does that. So here we might not necessarily have supports. I think this is a 45-degree line that the printer can make. Here, for sure, inside we have support. So if you print like this and you then have to start ripping this shit out, that's not very handy. You don't want to do that. So then a lot of the shoes, also for speed, are printed vertically. If you print vertically, you must make sure that your shoe sticks to the plate, that it's easy. And also, you usually print then in such a way, since your toes have curve already, you usually print with the heel against the plate. And it then means that unless you want a lot of support here, which you usually don't want, try to make the heel flat. So this is also what Fused does. This is his logo, also the lines. But he intentionally makes that back part flat. It doesn't mean that the inside of the shoe is flat. Here, still in the inside is still a curve of the heel. On the inside, if you can see, it's still a curve. But the back side is flat. So what you can also do, which is also one of the things that he does, is to design a structure that you print around, design your own support that holds the shoe in place. Because usually in our case, we make a big brim, a big extra edge around the shoe so that it holds it in place. Especially if you are printing on a printer where the plate goes either like this or like that. So because the more you have the plate moving, if you have a vertical shoe, in the end, this will always be shaking a little bit. That's why, for instance, we work with the FL Sans printer. You can see it behind me, those Delta printers. We like those because they have a stationary plate, so the plate does not move. It's only. Those are also the printers that Philip uses. That's exactly the printer that he uses for these things. What you will also see, indeed, that this shoe is textured. This is done, in his case, with T-spline in Rhino. But you can do it with whichever way you like, but textured. So make it forgiving. One other thing that I mentioned yesterday on the question for breathability is make perforations. You can also be really creative there with how you place those. We're now in the course doing textile printing. You could even create intentionally lots of openings in that to make it breathe. Also smart, which I think is something that a lot of people forget, is minimize material. So what he does here is print double walled. So this is inside of this, you might hear it also a little bit, the material. There's not infill. There's wall, and it's empty between those. And this is intentional because it's also way faster to print. And if you do vertical, then you have no problem. And the printer has no problem with that. You can just print those two layers next to each other. So very smart. Final thing, he doesn't make such big volume shoes. Intentionally, he keeps the volume in here down and then focuses the material here. The thing is, if you are printing a shoe, and same as in any other shoe, you want the sole part to be stiffer than the upper part, simply because here it needs to support your whole weight. And this is more to hold the foot, and then for the rest it needs to be soft. What we see a lot is that we get people in that want to make shoes that are really big volume. And my advice is always take the volume to the top. Don't take the volume to the bottom. So say you want to do something like this. This was a shoe that was made in AI. Thick sole, right? This is some serious infill that we have in here. Because of that, it takes me a lot of material, and this takes me like a full day, full 24 hours of printing. One of the things that we are going to try for Footrise, since I don't believe that everything should necessarily always be fully printed, is to try and just print the walls, the outer walls, and fill it up with like an EVA or an EVA block, and then print the rest. Because this is a big amount of infill. We'll make it long in printing, and we'll make it heavy. There's a shoe, let me open the website from Sellerfeld, because there's a popular shoe that they have, which I think has been made in a very smart way from this perspective, because it has the volume in the top, because it's right already here. Let me see, share my screen. Here, this one, the Marshmallow, this one. Because if you have this, so this looks like a very big volume shoe, and when you see it, it is a big shoe. But most of the volume is in the top. So if you wear the shoe, then the actual filled part is like here. And the rest, also this whole upper bit, is puffy indeed. But it doesn't have to be so stiff, because this is the upper part of the shoe. There I can do an infill of 5%, 10% low infill, because, or maybe no infill like Philip does, as minimal as possible. But if the part that I need to stand on is thick in your design, that simply means lots of infill need to fill, lots of material, unless you put something else inside. But if it's supposed to be a fully printed shoe, I think another one that does that really smartly is the one from Rains. Let me see where they have that one. Let me see if I go through. Oh yeah, so well, I'll just comment on some of the shoes as I go along. So things here like the Kratos. If you want to stand on this, possible, yes, but needs to be stiff. So we need walls, infill, we need stuff in here. Otherwise it's gonna go flat. So great if you want openings, but think about what that might mean for your model. Let me think. I was looking for the one by Rains. Of course, now we have so many shoes that I have to scroll probably quite a bit. Is there a search function? Yeah, I'm gonna have to ask the Sellerfelds if they can make search functions, because now there's so many shows that I cannot easily find the one from Rains. Not there. But yeah, similar, also this Y1. Also the volume is here. You see that the volume is this arch bit. making it puffy on the top. That can be very soft, no need to stand on that. So I can check the Zellerfeld Reigns model, the puffy one. Oh yeah, you see it on the foot. So, and here you can also see that quite well. Here you see all this volume, the puffiness. You can even see it. This is too large for the model, but you can even see it here. That the foot sinks quite far to the bottom. So I honestly think that this part is like the shoe, the sole, and this whole part is the puffiness, and it's on the top. You don't step on that. So it is something, a smart trick to think about. If you simply want a very bulky model, think about whether it's necessary to have your sole really bulky, or whether you can solve it in another way to do that. So I'll stop sharing a second. There was a question that I forgot to, I think it was by Echo, that I forgot to answer, which is coating. Yes, can do. I mean, technically, this is also coated because it doesn't come out of the machine like this. This is a full powder coating. You have thick sprayable coatings. Difficulty is always depending on what you want it to do. After that, for sure, your shoe will be completely unrecyclable. So in that case, I'm thinking then do resin, because if you want to do FDM, because the machines are more affordable and you might be able to recycle your shoes, then you make it in TPU. Great. If you want to spray coating, can do, but there's not that I know of TPU coatings, full TPU, that will do what you might want it to do, or stretchy enough. And it makes it as filament unrecyclable. You cannot make another pellet and another filament from that. I think there was a question also about how many walls. Let me see, do I have that here? Is it in the chat? Oh yeah, Eamon, yes, indeed. So, well, right, but there was a question indeed. We still don't have access to the files. True, because I spent a lot of time today with the help desk, and it turns out that because of new rules, both Google Drive and WeTransfer, which I did try today, are not allowing third-party access to their applications. So now I have to make an ebook and make a link in that, and that works to get you to the file. So that's what I'm doing now, and that will be up tomorrow. Then indeed, how many walls, Mitchell is asking. So also again depends on the stiffness of your material and where they are. So let me get this shoe again. So maybe asking this, and I would not necessarily think so much in how many walls, because that also depends on your nozzle size, right? But nozzle size, how stiff is your material? But say in thickness, I would say about 2 millimeters each. 2 millimeters also for us is usually the minimum of what we can print without it becoming frail. So, and for you, it really depends on what part of the shoe is it, how strong does that need to be? Obviously, there need to be more layers on here on the bottom side, because that's against the street. So there you want to have it stiffer. So it's a bit of a trial and error also. And then again, same as what we saw with the Ratha shoes yesterday, that if you are here, right, on the top, if you print like this and you get here, say that I have a very low infill, so I have a very open structure, and I want to cover that with walls. Indeed, you need quite a lot of walls, 5 walls, for 5 layers top bottom. Because you also have to realize, indeed, for those of you that might not, what is top and what is bottom and what are walls. So essentially for a printer, it's very simple. Whatever is against the plate is bottom. What is in the Z direction up is top. And the ones to the sides are walls. Even though, so if I have the shoe like this is top, this is bottom, and these are walls around. If I have the shoe like this is bottom, this is top, and these are the walls around. So that depends on the orientation of your model. So that's something that you need to think about. also when you design, to see that you can do that. What did I want to do now? I'm thinking what I will do. I think what I will do first is, because I really like designers sharing their experience, that I might first jump to both Federico and John, and then in the end give a little bit of an overview. There's one shoe that I found online that someone was like, "Oh, we should have this printed." Maybe some of you saw it. It's a crocodile slip-on shoe that I want to use as an example at the end of the class to kind of summarize everything, to show you what pitfalls you can run into, because that shoe, the way it is now, is not suitable for printing, and it's exactly like a model that we usually get. So that's why I wanted to do that. But first, since otherwise I'm only talking, I wanted to share some work of other designers. So Federico, would you like to present a little bit what you have? So Federico's from Argentina. English is not his first language. Give him some slack if need be. We are here to translate, but he can do it really well. So, and otherwise, I think we have a lot of Spanish-speaking people also in the in the class who can help out. So, yeah, talk about what you have been making.
Hello. My name is Federico Robotico. I can share screen.
Yeah, you should be able to. Are you able to share screen? Because yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, I made a little presentation to help me more than anything. Well, you can see.
Yes.
Sorry. Okay. Well, I'm gonna talk about my own experience in 3D printing shoes. Uh, and this was in my thesis, my college thesis. I'm from Argentina. I study in the National University of Mar del Plata, and I graduated last December. The clear approach I had with 3D shoes was in a last competition 4 years ago. So I
Did
don't
you
know. I
for
bring,
that? I remember that.
and we participate with the friends. Uh, from that moment, I really like the 3D shoes. But when I reached my last year in college, I have to do a thesis. My thesis was about skating, was about skating and shoes, two things that I like. And I want to give the to the thesis uh, something else. And a friend, and one of my friends say, "What? Why will you try with 3D printing? We never experienced before, but I say, well, I will check it. I take this. The words are big, sorry, and I do that. I try to 3D printing. Well, I can show you the first one I made, and this. And this one, the first shoe I made. Well, this was my first prototype. I made it to see how it works, so to see if it can actually work. And because there was, I was in my city, the 3D printing in shoes is nobody else. So I have no
No.
way to see.
What software did you use, Federico? What program did you use for
Program,
this?
I use Blender. I do all in Blender.
Yep.
I learned Blender last year, and I have used Rhino before, but I never get fully, you know.
Yeah. I really like the textures that you, again, it emphasizes what I said before. Beautiful textures. Work with textures.
Yeah, and that's what one. I think the 3D printing. Well, I think no, the 3D printing led you to do like a very strange things. So my goal in my thesis was to explore that, to make something different.
Yep.
Well, what this was my first choose. I made a couple arrangements. I stepped forward to who was the final prototype of,
Yeah.
of this.
Yeah.
Who was the shoot to do.
Because
sketching.
you are showing the moth, like the butterfly,
Yeah,
as that's an inspiration, right? For the
yeah.
texture.
I use as a as inspiration the patterns in the wings of the moth
Yeah.
and the butterflies,
Yeah.
and it was not like a uh, and the word doesn't come off. um,
You can say it in Spanish if it's easier, because I'm sure we are able to translate.
como no quería que sea tan específico.
Nothing specific. Okay.
Not specific. Well, that was the idea. That was my
Yeah, I
inspiration.
think that visually it's clear. Diego is asking, did you use tissue for Blender plugin?
No. I use the modifiers that come with Blender. I don't use any add-on or anything.
Yeah, and he's also asking if you printed your first model with an FDM printer. What printer did you use?
I used a printer open. It was a Hellbot SE 300, I think.
Yeah.
So this one. What it?
Yeah,
No.
it's also basically simple, basic direct drive.
Yes.
Model.
That was the only machine that I have access to. That a friend have. Well, I think the structure to be useful. I use the relleno.
Resin, yeah, Lucina, yeah.
Well, I make out studio and all
Yeah.
that. And
Yeah.
this was actually wearable, and that's why what's a goal to see in action the shoes. Well, I have I use double walls in the upper of the shoe to be more flexible and to be.
Yeah. What is also interesting here, I mentioned this yesterday in the class, that you are using Flex PLA, right? For this. This is the
Yes.
print material. Yeah. Yeah. Can you maybe show how flexible it is in the camera? Yeah. So flexible. It was way more flexible than I thought.
Yeah,
This
they was really good. This is just a prototype. They have a a lot
Yeah.
of problems. It works really well.
Yeah.
I was surprised actually.
Yeah, it's really well.
Well, and then they have these parts that you can change to prevent the shoe to get damaged.
Yeah, because this is really smart where you made those pieces, because that's the parts where the shoes get damaged, right? Skateboard shoes.
That's
And
exactly
then put that. Yeah. Yeah.
that's what the first
And at the
idea.
same time, it's
So
still the wings of the
yeah,
butterfly. Yeah.
like a curious
What I
detail.
also really like here for those of you watching from a printing perspective, that when we look at these shoes, play with different ways of printing, because of course you have the like the vertical or diagonal printing for the green part for the whole shoe, and then the blue parts you can print flat. You know, you can print flat or semi-flat. You can work with many different ways of printing and combine those. It doesn't always have to be that everything is printed in one go. So and you see here how creative you can be, and also how you can update parts of that shoe quite easily by changing those parts.
Well, this this is this was all, but in that moment, I have time to the day I have to present the thesis. So
Yeah.
I want to go a little further to try the all the prestations, all the possibilities the 3D printing have. And then I do this shoe, I like
Yeah.
a flip
Yeah,
flop.
that's fine. Yeah.
Um, to like in a different environment, but the same technologies, and it worked really good. One thing I have with it,
Yeah. Yeah, then it's even more flexible.
yeah, but it have, there are like
Yeah.
thinning.
You did not get any support material in the openings. The openings were stayed open.
It opens again. I understand.
So this material that you are making is very open, right? So there's holes
Yes.
in it. And was it difficult for the printer to do the holes, or they came out well?
No, no, they come out really well. I think
Yeah.
this one was the easier to print of all.
Yeah.
Like the less complex of the collection.
Yeah.
Well, then this is shoe and this is action. Well,
Yeah.
sure. And then the last one I made for my thesis was like a sneaker type of shoe. Was this
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
I ordered. Like a more chunky shoe, something bigger, something different to see how it goes more than anything. Well, it has this.
It's beautiful. I've
This
seen
was
this shoe in
what
real life. It's so spectacular. Yeah.
this was printed separately. You know, you can.
Yeah, you printed the tongue
They have
separately?
support. Yeah,
Yeah.
they have the support with the in this side
Yeah.
and then
Yeah, you can see that
in one
in the
side.
model you placed it such that indeed the tongue goes straight down, and then you have a
Yeah,
support under that, and then you have a support under.
yeah.
What I find really
I
interesting. No, go ahead.
no,
What I like about this model, I don't know if you can see that, but it's kind of like an inner shell shoe. Yeah, and then yeah, here you can see that. So it's like an inner shell, like a sock, and then these it's almost like tentacles of an octopus, even though it's a wing, but it goes around it, and there's space between that inner shoe and the outside. And this is also, I think, a very smart way of giving a shoe volume and at the same time making it lightweight. I was already expecting a
yeah.
remark from Eric Heijerman, who was also with us. He unfortunately, I think, missed you at the lab, but he's also a very fanatic skateboarder, so I was already waiting for his response. So Eric is indeed asking, he says, wow, the textures are crazy for an FDM printer. It looks very comfortable. How do you experience the filament breaking or fading against the skateboard grip tape, against the grip tape
Well,
on the tape?
yeah, it's damaged the shoe, the
Mhm.
board. You know, it's get like it's the right.
Puedes hablar en español, así es más fácil.
Se degrada rápido el material.
Ujú. So it breaks down fast. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's erasing fast. Yeah.
But the problem with the shoe was this part. It was not very like
Tight.
uh,
Resistant, was it
uh,
tearing or?
no, this part was not like bien unida. ¿Cómo sería?
Also, it was not
Well,
it's attached well to the.
yeah, there
Yeah.
was not very attached well, so it breaks much
Yeah.
easier.
It breaks off. Yeah.
It needs work. It's a prototype,
Yeah,
but
but these are
they
Well,
have
yeah. The good news is, and you're always welcome to join then here, Eric, that Federico's coming to the lab here to end of August to
All right.
further refine his design. We opened the lab for him so that we can try different materials, can try different things, because I think he's super talented.
Okay.
So this would be great.
I really like
Mhm.
the part that you the parts that fade away with the skateboards, that you
Yeah.
made them reusable, so you can use the shoe
Yeah.
longer, but you reattach.
Yeah, that's what the main idea. So
Yeah.
I try to solve that problem.
Yeah, and I tried
Yeah.
also this with TPU. I saw also that it degrades faster, so I was interested about the Flex PLA versus the TPU because I haven't seen that difference.
Yeah, I think the flex works good. It have to to solve some problems, but I can see future.
I think actually the Flex PLA is really ideal for this because I think it's a bit more forgiving because I think with all these holes, we might see at the end of the class I have a shoe with all kinds of holes. You can have holes, obviously, for FDM printing. You just need to make sure that the holes are in the right direction. So if I have a hole, if I print my shoe vertical like this, and I have a hole that goes like this, so I have a hole that is more square, I will have support full of it. But if the hole goes in the direction of the shoe, like this, or it's a drop shape, or it's a circle, these are things that the printer can't print because it's not an overhang. It can build it bit by bit by bit by bit. But anything that is, for the printer is really nearly horizontal uh, will get support. And that's why if you look at the structure of this shoe, yes, there's holes, but they're like drop shaped. And that is possible to print. Yeah, we also have this just simple. These are big holes for laces. This we can definitely print because it's like it's a circle, so it was able to do it. But if I do a big hole and there's almost like a square or there's huge overhangs in here, that is difficult to print. John was asking, yeah.
Yes. No. What?
John was having a question. He was asking, he said it's an incredible use of those textures and patterns. Very clever method for the tongue area of the blue shoe. Did you manually design the supports in CAD or did you use the slicer's auto support function? Did you make
I have and a half. You know, a friend helped me, but
Yeah.
a part was made by the program, and we have to do some work in the structure.
in the structure? Yeah.
Mostly because we have poco.
Yeah, you have a little bit of help there. Yeah, but no, but I think that that this is something. It's not difficult to do for those of you that follow our courses. If you come here for courses, then we can definitely also teach you how to do full custom supports because that can be very helpful.
And I have
go
one more story, and this is the
presentation,
last
yeah.
one I made. And what's this?
Yeah.
I
Love that.
have the presentation yet because I haven't time to do it, but I made some photos yesterday.
Yes.
And it was this. It's like a hill. I think this silhouette is it's the best for this kind of shoe. I don't know. I really like the.
Has somebody been, because I am curious how the open heel part will hold up. Has somebody been wearing it? Will it stay, does it stay well? Oh, yeah.
Uh, it works. They have problems.
Yeah,
I only
yeah.
made prototypes for now, but it works really, really good.
Yeah, this is something that we will definitely help you on when you come here, because we have a lot of people who want to do open heel structures like this. When you want to walk on that across a runway back and forth, fine. If you want to walk on it continually, then this will start collapsing. So we will help you put some structures in that will prevent that. Mitchell is asking, yeah, good question. Mitchell is asking, working with Blender and the printer, on average, how many shoes did you have to print before you arrived at the final shoe?
Now we have like a really short, short patch.
Yeah.
Like I made one prototype and then the final one because
Wow.
yeah, yeah, we have much money.
Really, I understand. Yeah,
uh,
but
we made like tiny approaches, like we print a tiny part and see how it works
Yeah.
and all that.
Right. I was laughing because Eric sent the emoji because Eric, I don't know if you have your shoes there, if you want to show what you did, or otherwise maybe if you can join Thursday in the exchange, which I wanted to ask you anyway, because Eric did his shoes in Balina. So this man has had to print
More than two. I will say
more
that.
than two prototypes
Yeah.
before he got to his final print. So that's why he could probably cry now hearing, okay, one try and then the final one.
Wow.
Because he's been printing for months to get to his shoes. But
Yeah.
I,
well,
I I have a lot of friends or help of a friend who
yeah,
has machines and all that. So
yeah,
uh,
more experience. But
I,
still, I mean, bravo. I think he deserves a big applause from everybody because this. Yeah, I think everybody who's in here, both novices and well, and the experienced people, probably even better, the experienced people know, yes, applause indeed, how difficult this is to to do. This is at least putting the bar for the other people who start very high. So, but really excellent. Well, was there anything else you wanted to present, or was this what you wanted to?
that's all for now.
Yeah, super. No, I think everybody can agree that this was a great choice to have you come in because I think it's absolutely spectacular and inspiring for everybody else what you have been doing. I can also imagine that maybe for some of the novices, people are like, I don't know all this yet. And that's actually why I asked John Gibson to come in, because John, you have been doing something this week that I think is absolutely fantastic, shows a completely different way of applying printing on an existing shoe and can be done in a more simple way. So I was like, I'm going to ask John Gibson. And of course, also you can introduce yourself, John, for those people that don't know you yet.
Hey guys, nice to meet you all. I've been in contact with Footwearology for a good amount of time now, and a lot of their classes have helped me create a very solid foundation to just move from and start to use that foundational knowledge and start to do my own applications for it. There's one course that we did a while back with Lorenzo using
during the Footwear's event last year, December, the textile printing. Yep.
So that was super helpful. But what I'm going to show you today is less of the grasshopper side of things and more of just straight up doing the printing in the slicer. One element that sparked this idea a lot was this shoe. This is 3D printed by Kedar Benjamin.
Yeah, Kedar Benjamin.
With Outbreak Lab. The main idea of this is to replace the lacing structure with something that still mimics laces, but still allows for that stretchability.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
So this is a really cool auxetic structure.
Anesthetics, yeah. This is what
That
Taylor.
allows that-
Taylor was our intern. This is what he was working on a lot when he was our intern, also doing the auxetics. Yep. Super
yeah,
nice.
so this is one thing that started to spark it, because I was like, when I saw the Adidas the Climacool originally, I was like,
Yeah.
so cool, but why did you 3D print a whole shoe and then add like traditional elements to it? And so I was like, would it be possible to replace the traditional elements like the standard
Yeah.
tongue with something that you could 3D print? So this was the one of the first versions of it that I went through. So you can see these two are the same size. And
Yeah.
one thing that I had to go through was like figuring out how to match up the sizing to properly have it fit in the tongue region to function
Yeah.
properly. So I went through a bunch of different variations to go from something like this to something
Yeah.
more like this
Right.
that actually covers the tongue and the area correctly,
Yeah.
because I'm modifying traditional materials to
Yeah.
being able to interact with more TPU type materials. This doesn't stretch at all.
Uh,
The reason that this is super wide is so when the laces expand, it still covers the region inside the shoe,
mhm.
and so it goes inside the shoe. Um, and so that was a little bit of a something like you have to think about in terms of reframing how to attach it. And so one, you can see these are the attachment points.
Mhm.
It's
Mhm.
essentially kind of like a little like um bubble they just poke
Yeah.
through. And depending on the material you use, so I worked with a couple of different materials, standard like 95A TPUs that are
Yeah.
a little bit like rigid
Different.
and
Yeah.
stiffer. And then all the way to some of the like more flexible materials and even foaming materials as well.
Yeah.
And so different materials had different like densities that I had to change
Yeah.
these little balls to,
Oh,
so
yeah.
they could compress enough to actually fit through the
The whole.
eyelets
Yeah.
of this. Um, and so I went through a bunch of different variations. Here's a cool one.
Yeah.
And so you can see that texture and pattern on it was created just using
Nice. So this is
this
the
one.
cross. What's it? 3D cross, I think. Infill.
This
No?
one's Hilbert curve.
Oh, Hilbert curve. Yeah.
This is the cross one.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
It's more close.
And
Yeah.
so you can see if you just were to do the cross version, it wouldn't be super strong on the backside. So what you do is you layer like a grid pattern
Yeah.
that's very stable for it to print on top of, so it can layer on top of that.
Yeah.
And it kind of disappears with the design.
And the look. Yeah, for those of you that want to learn that, that's the basic. This is the way, and you learn this in the first two classes of our textile printing course.
And here's a little bit of a different version. So these are both cross patterns, but depending on how you scale it and put it in place, you
Yeah.
can offset it, have it more down the center. Depending on the infill density correlates to the size of the crosses. So just it using kind of like the printer itself as like a design tool was. And so one thing for this, so this was printed on a dual extrusion Soval SVO4. It's a little bit of a difficult printer to wrap your head around. Once you start to get into TPUs with it, it doesn't really handle TPUs that great.
They took it into the market, unfortunately. One of the few cheap double nozzle ones, the Soval SV4. We also had it. It malfunctioned half the time, I must say.
Yeah, that one has been a little bit of a headache for me. But so there's a couple of other interesting things that you want to understand when you're doing this as well. So this one right here, this was printed out of a 95A TPU. But this one actually had dual wall thickness. So so depending on, and this was still one layer. on the
Yeah,
cross.
middle. Okay.
So I initially
What nozzle size are you printing with?
this one was a 0.4 nozzle.
Oh, I see.
The ones that I'm doing on the Sovol is a 0.8 nozzle.
Yeah.
The reason I do 0.8 on the Sovol is because I need a super thick extrusion layer to be able to adhere, because the left extruder and the right extruder, if you don't have them absolutely perfectly dialed in, it's just they're gonna fight each other.
Put on the plate. Yeah.
So I'm kind of using I've tried to get 0.4 nozzles to work with the Sovol. I really cannot. One of the new things that I'm testing out with that is using a glass bed for it. So, because sometimes the PEI beds, even though they say they're completely flat and they do have like the bed mesh leveling, I still question whether all that's still working
It's true,
100%.
whether that's still curved. Yeah. Glass definitely does stay flatter than any of those. So it's a disadvantage that you cannot bend the glass to take off your model. So, but yeah, that's there's pros and cons to everything. Yeah.
Various trade-offs. And so I mean there's just so much to explore with this on multiple elements, because while I applied this specifically to the Adidas Climacool, you could really apply this to many other shoes that just have eyelets like that, just printing them, poking them through. I mean, now that I'm thinking about this, like I'm curious if I could just like grab another shoe real quick. The distance between the eyelets might be different on other shoes, so that's one thing you'd have to account for. But like you could probably adapt this to doing this for a lot of other shoes
We've
as
made
well.
here very, very open lattices that we also used as uppers or as tongues, but that you could simply wrap the laces through. I mean, you could position the laces as you like. So I just really like the fact that you are indeed printing a part of a shoe or using printing to upgrade an existing shoe. I think that's still a really undiscovered market where there's a lot that can be done. So even the example that Federico was showing with the fastening, like around the toe or for the laces, those are things that you could make for an existing shoe as well, and it doesn't even have to be a printed shoe. You can make add-ons for all kinds of shoes, and especially now that we have so much in our industry, so much excess stock of footwear. Also, there's new legislation now in Europe, and that will come in the US as well, where you are not allowed to destroy new shoes that are excess stock. So ideally you resell them, which is also good because then you can make more money with them. So there's more and more of these types of ideas that we can apply industrially. So it cannot be super elaborate structures, but especially like what you do here with the textile, it would be a simple thing to add that's not expensive or elaborate to make, and that can be added on to change a shoe and potentially resell it. So I think that's why I wanted to really show it, because I think it's a great approach. And also for those of you that are starting out with printing, the textile course, so we have 2 textile courses. The one that John was mentioning is with Lorenzo. This is for people that know Grasshopper, that can do parametric textile design. This is, for instance, also, I have another shoe here where, I hit something on the screen, sorry. Where you start making indeed much more actual 3D. Yeah, you also have yours there, actual 3D. This is also an auxetic texture on the back. I don't know if people can see. That's more for advanced, but we have for those of you that follow, for instance, Diego on Instagram, you'll see all his fantastic labor. Because it's very addictive. We do the beginner course of just here, look at that. Oh, I haven't even seen that yet. So that's the type of stuff that we are making there. And this is only using Slicer, using the most simple software for free. You do not, this is exactly the type of technology that John's using for his tongue. You do not need even to do any specific modeling for this course at all. So for those of you that are considering to start printing, my big advice is start with that course. This is the best course, I think, if you are entry-level printing. Start with the 3D printed textiles. It will teach you a lot about materials, about slicer settings, about playing with the printer. These are fast prints that are easy to make, so it's also quite fulfilling that you don't start on a super difficult shoe right away and bang your head against the wall and get frustrated. It's very simple structures and that you could do a lot with. So that's one that I definitely recommend for all the beginners. And then from there, you can start building on, okay, then after that, I would say start learning Rhino or Blender, start doing then the course in 3D printed footwear after that. And that's how you grow. But a lot of people, when they start, they immediately think, I want to do the full shoe. Start with the textiles. It's absolutely the best way to get really quick, good and quickly gratifying printing knowledge. So, but any questions to John so far before I go to the final section of today? Yeah, applause for sure, because it's also super inventive. Really, really love it. So, yeah, I think it's a great thing. I just wanted to show one quick thing and also a super quick workflow for you guys that if you are new and you don't know yet everything about printing and you find it difficult to understand where will there be support material, how difficult will this shoe be? Let me share one example. So the other day, let me see that I share my screen. In my LinkedIn feed, I saw this one. You guys see this? So I don't know if many of you have seen this. This is from Tobias. His last name is Rush. Tobias Rush. He works for Lacoste and he had just started there as an experienced industrial designer. Had just drawn this 3D sketch with an idea of should we not do for Lacoste like an actual 3D printed crocodile skeleton shoe. So somebody suggested, oh, we should print this. And I was like, what? This is one of those examples that we get a lot in courses where if you start printing this, the experienced people among you will see this immediately. All kinds of problems are coming up on the horizon because the holes that are here are not placed in a way at all that is suitable for printing. So this shoe will completely fill up with support material. There is angles in the design that I would not put in those places. So I was like, not to criticize the designer, by the way, because I do think that it's a very creative model. We also have great context, so that's not the issue. But I think it's a great example to show how you might improve. So what did I do? I simply took a screenshot of the shoe from the side. And that screenshot I took into, I don't know if you guys know this program, into Tripo. Let me open this window. This is tripo3d.ai. I don't know if you guys know this software. It's super easy. I can show you quickly actually how it works. Let me go to the beginning. So if you come to the Tripo website, you have Tripo Studio. I'm not going to explain that now. That's much more elaborate 3D. You also have Tripo Lite. That is the version that I'm using now because it's really quick and super simple. What does this do? You could just upload a single image, or if you have multiple images. I mean, I could have even taken screenshots multiple sides because this was from a video, but I just did it quickly. I simply said, okay, let me take the picture that I took of that shoe. I made this shoe. This is just, I just took the background out and said, okay. Then you simply say generate. That's how simple it is. Now, what you will notice, since this is not a typical shoe shape, that the software might not recognize it right away as being a shoe. So don't expect a nice last shape or whatever. But that's also not why we're doing this. This is just to get you a really quick 3D model of this shoe that you could take into a slicer so that you could see where supports are coming and that help you understand what is happening in the printing. And that if you don't orient the holes in the right way, then it's all overhang. So for instance, the teeth are basically complete horizontal overhangs the way they are placed now. Because this model, ideally, you would probably print it vertical. Everything fills with support. And that's going to be hard to take out. It's going to be hard to have all these little bits and bobs right. And I simply want to show you that and then explain in a simple way how could we solve some of these things, because it's not insanely complex. It's just something that you need to be aware of. And this workflow is good to use because it allows you to really quickly test whether your model is easily printable or whether there's somehow supports popping up in places that you didn't expect yet. So it's a little bit slow this evening. If it takes too long, I'll simply just see that I go to the model that I already had. Normally this is a bit faster, but it might be because now, usually in the evening time, lots of people are on it because also America is awake and Europe is awake doing this type of stuff. Well, we're almost there, just simply to show you that it does make a full 3D. Software is not expensive, so you have a bunch of free credits if you want to start with this, and otherwise it's 19 euros a month. So here we go. I'm going to click to view, loading the model. Here we are. There you are. 3D. Oh, it's even better than the one that I made originally. It doesn't understand that it is a shoe, so I do get like a weird thing, of course, here on top. But you can at least see that it does, since I took out the holes, that it does actually. And it makes a structure for the bottom because obviously we didn't give it a bottom picture, but not half bad, to be honest. And this is super quick. And then the good thing is, and also very easy for those of you that don't know modeling yet and still want to try and do something. If you follow courses with us, also in printing, we will teach you a little bit more elaborate workflow on this, where you can use a shoe last and wrap the shoe around it without knowing modeling. In this case, what I simply want to do is download my STL file. If I go down here, I can choose what format I want. Say STL down here, and then I simply say download. So while it does that, I'm jumping here. Let's see, to my Cura because I had already done model in there, so we want to wait for that. What I had done is to bring the model inside. I scaled it up and I turned it vertical because I think in this case is probably how you want to do the printing. What you will see already here is that, of course, it's now leaning on these 2 points, one here on the heel and one that's like the bone on this part of the heel. This is open. So already you will have a lot of support in here that you will have to take off. And this support will have to be quite dense because otherwise you're not going to keep your shoe on the plate. Because if you look at this, you can zoom in a bit here, the only points now holding the shoe to the plate are this point and that point. And that's not enough to keep the shoe stable. We will have to print a brim around this. There will have to be good support underneath because otherwise this shoe is going to fall over. Especially this is I now sliced it for the Ultimaker that we have, but could be for any printer, especially if you have a moving build plate. But even if you don't, there's a really big chance that this model, if you don't attach it better to the plate, is going to fall. Then we have, of course, all these holes in here. Some of them might work because here I could imagine essentially what you have with the printer is that anything that is more horizontal than 45 degrees needs support. Anything that is more vertical than 45 degrees might not need support. You can tweak that a bit, but that's an average rule of thumb. So here we can see, okay, this goes quite straight up. This might be more or less 45. This goes straight up. So maybe that he can print this one. But here, this curve is too horizontal. There will be support in here. And then we will have also all these teeth. The problem is with these teeth, this is nearly horizontal. This will completely fill up with, zoom out a bit with my mouse. It will completely fill up with supports. So it doesn't mean that you could never make something with teeth like this, but you would either make it more like a texture and have the teeth closed to each other, or you would have to change the direction of the teeth, make them a little bit more diagonal. some of these holes you're going to have to reshape the shape of it, or you would have to simply fill them up. Because if I now slice, which I quickly did, you already see here, this takes 18 hours, 14 minutes. I have this. I'm not going to show you exactly now how I do all the slicing, because tomorrow we have some slicing class. But here you already see, look at this. Full of support here in the teeth. Indeed, like I expected here, it's requiring support. In here, it's requiring support. It requires support also to hold it straight, but that's not bad. And this is already quite minimal here, maybe to keep the shoe straight. And I think in terms of design, there's a lot that you could do, changing the shape of the holes into something that is more in tune with the direction of the shoe. Ideally, I always say, if you start designing a shoe, already think about, am I printing horizontal or am I printing vertical? In this case, you could also think about the horizontal, but then since the top now is closed, I didn't do that because it would fill the entire shoe up. But this is a good way, just as a trial, especially if you're a beginner. If you have a sketch, something quick, or a photo, or something that you have like, I want to do something like this, take it quickly into a 3D AI, and then take it into your slicer, and it will already explain a lot to you, like where can I expect supports. And over time, you get more and more experience that you can already predict basically where you might find supports. And then it's either change the entire shoe or just find creative solutions. Make the teeth go over each other like this as a texture, and then you would have had the same effect. Could we make maybe even small textures inside what are now holes? Could we reposition the holes? Of course, in this case, it's a skeleton, so you might not want to deviate completely from the natural shape of the skeleton, but you can definitely tweak a bit with how do I make those holes so that I go from something that's maybe like this, which it cannot do, to something like drop that is like this, which it can be. That was my message for Printfest today. Let me see if I missed any things. No, Eric. Also a very simple workflow for the sketch artists amongst you guys. Use Nuark AI for sketch to image. Yeah. And then Tripo for image to 3D model. That's also true. So I don't know if you guys know Nuark AI. This is an AI that is specifically meant for coloring up sketches. So if you indeed only have some lines without having nice shading or whatever, you could drop your sketch into Nuark AI. If people want to show that, I'm happy to show that tomorrow also. And show you that step. That's really quick, because then you can start from a really scribble, boom, Nuark, boom, Tripo, and then you already have a 3D model for you to test. Does Viscom work as well? Yes, it does. They also have Sketch to 3D. So I find Tripo's 3D better. The quality of the meshes that comes out of Tripo versus Viscom, I find higher. So that would be my advice. We also have fantastic experiences, by the way, with using Tripo for printing. The models are so clean. Somehow, one of my students said once, this is probably just computer talking to computer, because this, whenever we would print models from Tripo, they would always go right the first time. So it's really nice meshes. Actually, the bigger shoe that I showed before, this is a full AI one. This one, I can also show you that later this week. We have an app that is available to people in Footwallery. I'll send the link. It's now finally finished, where you can take the model that you make in Tripo, upload a last that you, because of course these 3D AIs, it's not made around a last. So in terms of a fit, you don't have a very good fit, because this is not made around the last. So we have developed together with Pixelit from Germany an app where you upload your last that you want to use, and then wrap essentially that AI 3D model around it, stretch it to fit. And then you can subtract the last in one go, so that you would have the inside, the last shape in there. And that's also a very easy way for those of you that are not modelers to make a 3D model that you could actually wear. So we always try to keep things simple. Anything before we go? So tomorrow we're going to do some slicing examples. If anybody has major issues on any type of shoe that you are slicing and you don't understand something. Good question on the print orientation from Daniel. What are the pros and cons of printing a shoe on a 45-degree-ish angle? The cons are that you have more support, so you can print like this. That Zellerfeld also usually prints like this. The pros are that you have your heel curve cleaner usually, because the support is then here. So if I position this shoe like this, then the support will be under. The disadvantage is that there's a lot of support under, because this whole thing basically becomes like an overhang. But you do keep this curve cleaner. Also, it could sometimes be helpful. The reason why we do it sometimes is on the Bamboo, since it's not very big. We have the X1. And if we do it like this, the shoe doesn't fit. So if we then do it like this, you can do it like that. So it's not bad at all. It just usually takes a bit longer, because in general, if you print under that angle, you have a little bit more support underneath the shoe. But I always also advise people, especially if you're a beginner, direct the shoe in multiple directions and see where you get the best printing time, and also where you say that we are looking at the shoe that I just talked about, this one. If you indeed want to keep that heel part clean here, then this way of printing might not be ideal for you. And you could indeed say, I want to keep that clean and I want to keep the top clean. So I'm going to position that shoe like that, which is more or less the 45-degree approach, right? You will see, you will still probably have a bunch of support now on the inside. You will have support here on the bottom, but this, maybe I should put it a little bit more forward, because this might now still be an overhang, this thing on the back. It's worthwhile to wait a second with the slicing to see. You can, by the way, what you see here, sometimes get the message that there's extraneous surfaces, which is surfaces that are overlapping or partially open, but which it normally cannot print. But if it starts slicing, then it's usually not something all that serious. Preview. Right. So now we get this. So you see, it's a little bit longer. So we had 18 hours, 14 minutes for the other one. This is 20 hours. However, we could probably try to tilt it even a bit more, because we now still see supports here, but we do keep this bit clean. We keep the top clean. And you have then the tree support for all these open shoes. I would advise tree support. We will talk more tomorrow about what that is. And then you get all the support here. I do think for the stability, it's not half bad. For the shoe, you see a little bit less support in here, because it can then easier print this hole. So it's usually good that once you start designing something, that you already know or have an idea of what orientation you want to print it on. So if you make your silhouette and there's a certain parts of the silhouette that you think is really important to keep clean, so that you don't want any supports on there, then that determines already the direction of your printing, vertical, horizontal, or diagonal, like here. And then design the rest from there, so that if I know this heel I want to keep clean, so this shoe I'm going to print diagonal, then you can design the rest of the holes based upon a diagonal direction. So that's my advice. How did you clean up the top and bottom from the 3D converter? I did nothing. I didn't clean up anything. I just smacked the model in there. Normally I would want to put the last maybe in, and this was of course not an actual shoe shape, but it was just to have a 3D representation of that design that I could demonstrate. So yeah, that's we're going a little bit over time. Oh, final message, by the way, I don't know if everybody saw that. I posted it on Instagram. I decided to put all these videos on YouTube. So for those of you that want to have the recordings, I know there's also some people that I will email everybody tomorrow that were not able to join. We have it on our YouTube channel. So then the people that are in Footwallology, they can join the live versions if you are registered on our website. And for people not, they will then have to follow after on YouTube. That's not going to happen for all the courses, but here we have a little bit, of course, of a preview of some of the courses that we do. Our courses are more in depth than this. But yeah, it gives you a taste of that. So yeah, all right. That was this then for today. I'm waving at everybody. And have a good night or good day wherever you are, and hopefully see you all again tomorrow. Yep.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks a lot. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.